Hello students, in the last module we learned about the chapter flower. In this module, let's learn about how fertilization takes place and how pollination takes place. Pollination. What is pollination? It is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower of the same species. Now, there are pollen grains which are the male gametes on the anther, as we learned before. And when they land on the stigma, this is the female flower, female part, the stigma, the pollen tube pulls the nucleus in, and then fertilization takes place. Henceforth, pollination is very important. Now, a condition here is that the flowers must be of the same species. Methods of pollination. There are certain methods of pollination. They are autogamy, geitonogamy, and allogamy. Autogamy. Autogamy is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the same flower. As we can see in the first diagram, the the pollen grain which is there on anther, it's going on the stigma of the same flower. Geitonogamy. Geitonogamy is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of a flower on the same plant. Now, the plant is same but the flowers are different. We can see it in the second image. Allogamy. Allogamy is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower of the same species but another plant. So here the complete plants are different. What is same is the plant species. Kinds of pollination. There are mainly two kinds of pollination: self-pollination and cross-pollination. Self-pollination. Self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or stigma of another flower on same plant. Okay, so self-pollination is the transfer of pollen grain from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or the stigma of another flower but on same plant having same species. A very good example is cleistogamy. Cleistogamy is a type of self-pollination where the flower does not open, the anther and stigma lie close to each other, mature at same time. So, the flower actually does not open. Now, pollination between two flowers of same plant is called as self-pollination. Why is it so? Because of genetic character of one plant will be the same in the different flower born on it. Now, when can self-pollination occur? There are some conditions. Let us see those. Flower is bisexual with both male and female reproductive organs. So flower has to be bisexual and both the male and female reproductive organs must be there. Now, in unisexual flowers, where both male and female flowers are born on the same plant. We have learned this term, but here again I am teaching this. In unisexual flowers, it should be a monoecious plant where the both male and female flowers are on the same plant. The third condition is where the anther and stigma of a flower must mature at same time even if the flowers are unisexual. So, the anther and stigma must be maturing at the same time. Means if anther is giving pollen grain at some time and the stigma is not that mature to take the nucleus from the pollen grains, then the pollen grains are just waste. And if the stigma is very now matured to take in the pollen grain, but the anther has already given all the pollen grains, so producing it will may take time. So the flower may be unisexual, but it must the anther and stigma must mature at the same time. Advantages of self-pollination. It is a surer method of bisexual flower. In bisexual flowers, where the stamens and carpel mature at the same time. The parental characters are preserved. Okay, so whatever character is there in the flower, that will go in the uh, offspring, and it is a shorter method in bisexual flowers because the stamen and the carpel will mature at the same time. There is no wastage of pollen grains, hence only small quantity of pollen grain is required. Okay, and it is economical to plant because it does not have to be large, showy, and produce nectar, so that the agents are being attracted. So this does not need a lot of energy. Now, since it has some advantage, it also has some disadvantages. Continued self pollination and generation after generation may lead to weakening of the species, as the seed produced are very poor, are of poor quality, and will give rise to less vigorous generation. So if generation takes place again and again, generation after generation will take place, then that may lead to weakening of the species. Okay, so seed produced are very poor quality, and they may not give rise to generation again or less vigorous generation. The weaker or defective character in particular variety cannot be eliminated. So as we saw, the parental characters are preserved. So if a flower has some problem, okay, and some weaker qualities are there, so that will again go into the offspring. So that cannot be eliminated, that cannot be taken out. So that is a problem in self pollination. The new varieties are formed and genetics of the same plant without any change is passed to the next generation, as we learned up before also. Cross pollination. Cross pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anthers of a flower to the stigma of another flower of same species but on another plant. So the pollen grains transfer is from the from the anther to the stigma of a flower but on another plant and same species. Advantages: the offsprings are healthier, the seeds are produced in abundance and are viable. New varieties are produced by cross pollinating two different varieties of the same species. Disadvantages of cross pollination: pollination is not always certain, as it requires some pollinating agents. So there must be agents like wind, insect, animals, etc. So if they are not there, then cross pollination cannot occur. Large quantity of pollen grains is produced and there is a lot of wastage. So large quantity of pollen grain is produced, so that if the only it's very less are produced, it's not so that they will be transferred from the anther to the stigma. It's uneconomical for the plant because the flowers have to be large, colored, scented, and they have to produce nectar to attract the pollinating agent. So a lot of energy is also waste. Difference between cross pollination and self pollination. There are some characteristics on which we need to differentiate. The first is the definition. Self pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of same flower and the flowers of the same plant. Cross pollination is the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of a flower of same species on a different plant. Now in self pollination agent is not required, but in cross pollination external agents like wind, water, insect, etc. are required. Maturity in self pollination, and anther and stigma mature at same time, but in cross pollination anther and stigma mature at different times. Now in self pollination no new varieties are formed, hence young ones cannot adopt to change in the environmental conditions, but in cross pollination new varieties are formed which are healthier and adopt to environmental conditions. Now in self pollination parental characters are preserved, whereas in cross pollination parental characters are not preserved. In self pollination in flower condition is so that the self pollination can occur even when flower is closed, but in cross pollination can occur only when the flower is open. Cross pollination has some disadvantages, but though it has some disadvantages, nature always favors cross pollination. Why is it? There are some things. First is unisexuality. The flower are neither male nor female flowers born on a separate plants. Hence, only cross pollination is possible. So, if only in unisexual flowers, if only the anther is there or only the stigma is there, then the pollen grains have to come from the another flower, or the pollen grains have to go to another flower. Dichogamy. Dichogamy is when the different timings of maturation of androecium and gynoecium in a bisexual flower. So, when the maturation of carpel and the pistil is different. Protandry. In some plant, anther of the flower matures before the stigma. So, sometimes the anther, when the pollen grains are produced, anther is not when the anther stigma is when the anther is enough to give the pollen grains, the stigma is not matured. And other is protogamy, wherein the stigma is matured before, but there are no pollen grains. So henceforth cross pollination has to take place in these, because when this plant is having only gynoecium matured, that time the other plant may be having androecium matured, and when androecium is matured in this plant, gynoecium will be matured in that plant. So this is important. Self-sterility. Self-sterility is a condition when the pollen grains from the anther falls on the stigma of a same flower. It fails to grow further. Only pollen grain from different flowers of the same species will complete the process of fertilization. Example is ray florets of sunflower and orchids. Hercogamy. In some flowers, there are special structures like hoods which prevent the pollen grains from the anther falling on the same stigma by covering it, as we can see. Heterostyle. In some flowers, anther and stigma grow at different height and they not favor self-pollination. So the anther and stigma are of the are on the different heights, so they may not support self-pollination. They support cross-pollination. Agents of cross-pollination. The first is insect pollinated, that is also called as entomophilous. The flower have some characteristics, let's learn them. They are large, brightly colored and showy. They produce scent and nectar. Why is it so? If the flower is very beautiful, the insects will get attracted, and by the scent and the sweet smell of the nectar, the insects will again get attracted to them. Flower pollen grains are sticky or spiny, so that they will get stuck to the body parts of the insect. The stigma is sticky and does not hang out from the flower. So the stigma is also sticky, so that the pollen grains will be sticking to it. The flower are a cluster to make them conspicuous when individual flowers are small. So we have seen bracts. When small flowers are there, there are small flowers forming big flowers when the flowers are very small, so that the insects may be attracted to them. Wind pollinated. These are also called as anemophilous. They also have some characteristics. Let's see them. Flowers are small, not brightly colored, and often dull green. They do not produce scent or nectar, so they don't need insects to be pollinated, so they can just be pollinated by wind. So they shall not be sticky, because if the pollen grains are sticky, they will be stuck to the flower and they will not go with the wind. and they do not need to be much showy and colorful and produce sweet nectar. The stamen is long and hang out from the flower to expose to wind. So the stamen is exposed to wind so that the pollen grains will stick to it. Anthers are large and loosely attached to the filament to be easily carried by wind. Pollen grains are produced in large quantities, light, dry, and smooth to be carried away by the wind. The stigma is is feathery and hang out of the flower to trap the pollen grains. Water pollinated or hydrophilous. The flower are formed only in aquatic plants. The characteristics are as follows. The pollen grains produced are in large number, because if they are produced in short number, they may not pollinate. Pollen grain with specific gravity almost equal to that of water, so that they remain floating below the surface of water. If they come outside, then they may not be pollinated. In some cases, male flower float on the surface of water till they meet the female flowers. Now, the example of very good example for this water pollinated is Valencineria. The flowers pollinated by birds, they are called as ornithophyly. Example, Bignonia. As we can see, the bird is pollinating the flower in the first image, and there are flowers pollinated by elephants. This is called as Elephophily. Example is Rafflesia. This is not Rafflesia. The Rafflesia is a very big flower. These are small flowers, and we can see the elephant is pollinating them. Now there are specific differences between wind and air pollination. Okay, insect pollination. Actually, that air has come in by mistake. In wind pollinated unisexual, the flower, the type is unisexual, dull colored, without scent and nectar. As we learned before, they do not need insects. But in insect pollinated, the bisexual flowers are brightly colored and scent and nectar. So the scent and nectar is there so that they can attract the insect. Quantity of pollen grains is large in self pollination, and more vestige is there. But in insect pollination, the quantity is less, and they can mechanically attach to the body. In the structure of pollen grain is such in wind pollinated that pollens are small, light, and smooth. They are not sticky. But in wind pollinated, they are large, sticky, and spiny. Stigma is long, feathery, and sticky and hangs out from the flower in wind pollinated, whereas stigma falls out inside the corolla in insect pollinated. Stamens are long and hang out above the flower in wind pollinated, and insect pollinated, stamen within the corolla tube. Artificial pollination. Man is the agent is in the artificial pollination. He transfers pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the flower. Example, Babylonia. An ancient civilization dusted male flower on the female flower on palm. So this is done so that we can get varieties. Emasculation is the removal of anther from young flower, which are then bagged with plastic cover, which are later pollinated in desired variety. Some examples of pollination: the insect pollinated sweet pea. The insects alights on the conspicuous corolla and thrusts its tongue to search nectar. During this, wing petals of the flower are depressed along with the keel petals are forced down, and the stamen touches the underside of the insect body. If the insect has already visited another flower, it may have some pollen grain sticking on its body. The pollen grain then transferred to the stigma of the flower. Wind pollinated maize. The wind blows the pollen grains from the outward hanging anthers because they are loosely attached to the filament. The pollen the pollen blown away by the wind falls on the feathery stigma of the female flower and has a large surface. The male flower matures before the female, hence there are less changes of self-pollination, less chances of self-pollination. Fertilization. Fertilization is the fusion of male gamete with the female gamete to form diploid zygote in flowering plants. The male gamete is the pollen grain and female gamete is the ovule inside the ova, inside the ovary. So, let's see fertilization. Structure of a pollen grain. Pollen grain is the male gamete, which is matured cell with a double wall outside. Double wall outside is called as the exine, and the inner wall is called as the intine. Pollen grain has cytoplasm with two nucleus, the tube nucleus and the generative nucleus. Okay, the tube nucleus grows further through the style, followed by the generative nucleus, which divides inside the pollen tube to form two male nuclei, and that is the sperm nuclei. And the pollen grain transferred from the stigma of a flower absorbs the sugar secretion and germinates. Structure of ovules. This is actually this by mistake it has come structure of pollen grains. The ovule is the female gamete, which is the inner part of the ovary. The ovules become the seeds and the ovary becomes the fruit, which has the seeds inside it. Could be single ovule producing single seeds. Example, mango, or many ovules producing a many seeded fruits like custard apple, papaya, etc. Each ovule has two protective coverings called as the integuments, outer and inner. Okay, and the integuments have a small opening called micropyle at the end for the entry of the pollen tube. The integuments enclose a mass of food-laden cells called nucleolus, and inside the nucleolus is the embryo sac. The embryo sac contains seven cells are there in the embryo sac. Okay, 3 plus 3 plus 3. The micropyle, micropylar and are 3 cells. That is the one egg cell, female gamete. That is a female gamete, and 2 synergids. That is helper cells. When the egg falls to fertilize, synergids carry out fertilization. Okay, or if the egg is not mature in some cases. The opposite to the micropylar end, which is also called as the chalaza. There are 3 antipodal cells there. Okay, on the chalaza. One large secondary nucleus with 2 nuclei called polar nuclei in the center of the embryo. Germination of pollen grain on stigma for fertilization. Pollen grains germinate if it falls on the stigma of the flowers of same species. The pollen grain absorbs the sugar solution provided by the stigma, and the pollen tube grows, breaking the germ pore. The generative cells also divide to form the 2 male gametes, and there are 3 nuclei which are not separated by the cell wall and have a common cytoplasm. The pollen tube grows through the style by dissolving the tissue with the help of enzymes and reaches the ovary. It enters through the micropyle and reaches the embryo sac. The tube nucleus disintegrates and the 2 male nuclei enter the embryo sac. The male nuclei which enters first fuses with the egg to form a diploid zygote. and the second male gamete fuses with the secondary nucleus to form an endosperm. The fusion of two polar nuclei of the secondary nucleus with the second male gamete is called as the triple fusion, which form the endosperm. We can see this diagram of germination. Double fertilization. In flowering plant, fertilization occurs twice. One sperm nucleus fuses with egg nucleus to form the diploid zygote. The other sperm nucleus fuses with the two polar nuclei to form the endosperm, the nutritive tissue. Fate of floral parts after fertilization. What do these floral parts become after fertilization? The petals, stamen, style, and stigma wither away or fall off. They go away. They are not there now. Calyx falls off, may remain intact in a dried and shriveled form. Example is apple and guava. The calyx is there in very dried form. In some cases, the calyx remain as persistent calyx. Example, brinjal and chili. The ovary enlarges into form a fruit. The ovary walls form the fruit wall, which may form dry and hard fruit wall. Example, coconut or a fleshy fruit wall like mangoes. Ovules become the seed. The fruit may have one or more seeds, which are developed from one or more ovules attached to the placenta in an ovary. When the fruit is ripe, the seeds are released to grow into a new plant. We can see how the fate is taking place. So here in the first part, ovary is changing into fruits. In the second diagram, ovules are changing into seeds. In the third part, we can see again what is happening. This is the complete fate showing. Okay, so this is after fertilization. What happens is that is given in a nutshell in a table. I hope you must have understood the chapter pollination and fertilization. Thank you.